Most people are only interested in pain and suffering. We love to hear someone else tell us the things that are wrong with us, more so than we're willing to hear about how to fix it. I mean, you can prove me wrong, but I've noticed this trend. I certainly create enough content highlighting features of, let's say, codependency, being a people pleaser, unhealthy relationships, burnout. Many comments will say, "That's me. What am I supposed to do about it?" And when I make a video about what to do about it, people still ask, "Okay, but how am I supposed to do that?" It's like they can't even hear the solution to their problem. And instead they create another problem, being that they don't know how to help themselves despite being told exactly what to do. This is why I think we get more out of hearing about our pain than we do hearing what to do about it. You're on fire and somebody gives you the water to put yourself out and you say, "No thanks, I'm fine." Okay. Most people would rather watch a video that says, "Here's 3 signs to know that you're on fire," as opposed to, "Here's 3 ways to overcome being on fire. Just tell me what's wrong with me, because I already had a clue, but no thanks, I don't need the cure." Let's look at some theories and philosophies about why this is true. According to existentialism, people may become attached to their suffering because it provides them with a sense of identity and purpose. And it's something that they're very familiar with, as opposed to the opposite, which is healing. That is completely uncharted territory that comes with many fears. Even when you're on fire and someone gives you the water to put it out, you say, "How is that water going to do anything? Is that the right kind of water? Is that enough water? I'm too afraid to use it. It might make it worse." Because just hearing about our pain spoken from the view of someone else can be as healing as the healing practice itself. Hearing someone say, "I know you're attached to your pain and I know it's so hard to let go," is the validation that we need and the permission that we need to hear to let it go. Oh, okay, that's a thing? I didn't know I could be attached to my pain. I didn't know I could be attached to letting go of something that was so painful for me. Something that doesn't make any sense at all now finally makes sense. Freud's psychoanalytic theory looks at how some of us are unconsciously drawn to our pain, which stems from unresolved issues in childhood. It's like we're that child that is forever in pain, just waiting for someone else to come along and make it better. But as we've heard the saying many times, no one is coming. And that can be a wake-up call for those who are attached to their pain because they're also attached to someone else coming and removing it for them. If only someone else could change, then I would feel better. If only this could change in my life, then I wouldn't feel this way anymore. But if their pain was removed, then what would they have left? So what they may actually want is not for someone to come along and remove their pain. Rather, what they want is someone to sit with them in empathy and compassion for their pain. But the way in which some people will deal with unresolved psychological trauma is to repeat their patterns of suffering and self-destructive behaviors. What used to get them attention isn't getting them attention anymore. So why be attached to something that isn't working? German philosopher Hegel proposed that individuals may be attached to their suffering as a necessary stage in their self-actualization, in their self-realization and self-awareness process. There has to be a conflict in hanging on versus letting go and finding the middle path to where that will eventually lead them. Maybe you were once in this place, fraught with a certain ailment or lifestyle that you were ready to succumb to until you reached that shifting point. The point where you held a different belief that change is possible. You held a different belief that said, I don't need to stay attached to my suffering any longer. People have become attached to their suffering when they identify too closely with their negative emotions, and they fail to realize and recognize the power of their own mind to transcend adversity. Staying attached to my suffering isn't making my suffering any better, but letting go is so hard. If you read a book and you said that it changed your life, how did it actually do that? It did that because it validated an idea or a thought or a feeling or an experience that you had or one that you wish you could have. Meanwhile, some people will buy the book or follow the Instagram account that provides so much helpful insight, but never read the book or never take time to practice the insight. They'll always just say, oh yeah, I follow that person, or I bought that book, but that's where it stops. People also love lists. Lists that give a number of symptoms to tell you what's wrong with you. And lists that give a number of solutions about how to fix what's wrong with you. Okay, so I know I could do this to fix that, but I'm not. Or I did it, but it didn't work. Because you only did it that one time or for a week or a few days, and then you gave up. And then you returned back to what you were doing before. Because what you were doing before, remember, was familiar, was easy. You knew exactly the path that it was leading you towards, even though you didn't quite like that path, at least you knew where it went to. And I think some people don't care about fixing the problems because they feel that they will fail. They're successful living with the problem, living in their pain and suffering, but the fear of screwing up and failing at fixing yourself seems far worse than continuing to stay in your current pain and suffering. There also seems to be a greater emphasis on diagnosing and labeling problems instead of being proactive and seeking out solutions to them before they've gotten too bad. It's quite enough for a lot of people to simply know that what's wrong with them might actually be normal, or now it's understood what was going on with me and I can put a label on it, and now I don't need to worry so much about fixing it, because fixing it isn't as important as knowing what's wrong with me. Oh, your toilet is clogged because you have this problem with the plumber could come over and tell you the reason why your toilet isn't flushing properly. And here you go. I have the parts for you, but it's going to take me this amount of time and it's going to cost you this amount of money. And you might say, you know what? No, who cares? I don't mind that the toilet doesn't flush properly. I'll just live with it. I don't have the time for you to be here to fix it. And I certainly don't have the money to pay for that sort of thing. I'm just going to carry on with how my toilet is right now. And let all of that shit back up and just play Russian roulette each time I flush it. Who knows if it's going to work or not? And that's what you're doing with your life. Things are getting backed up. Things are getting leaky. Things are getting stinky. But I'd rather have something wrong with me than have to put in the effort to fix it and to make it better. It's easier to come to that conclusion than to conclude the fixing it part, especially when it comes to human nature. Our society sees someone as being weak if they're seeking help. And so it makes sense that we've been conditioned into identifying problems instead of seeking solutions. Identifying with a diagnosis or a label may become part of a person's self-identity and provides them a sense of belonging or even an explanation for their thoughts and behaviors. But healing can be more challenging because it requires a greater effort and a commitment, which is why many people will avoid or resist engaging in it. Others will flat out deny any problem at all. So no solution is necessary.